Here we go. Ready, set, go. Coming to you live, it's the AutoHub show with Ian and Jeff. Here we go.
Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Kayla Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of a company called Retail Resilient Social Selling for the Car Industry. And we help auto dealers, auto agencies, and vendors in the auto industry sell more cars, service more cars, and make more money using our social selling strategy. That includes TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anything else you can think of. So if you're looking to invest thousands and make millions, we're definitely the social selling company for you. Like I said, who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
I was at Larry Coleman's seminar. So happy I came, having such a good time. Thank you so much, Larry.
One of the best trainers in this area for sure. I don't know about anywhere else, but as far as I know, he's the best. So, told you, it's state advantage. Thank you for having me here.
I'm at Larry Feldman's seminar, and what I found is that what he's really good at doing with his knowledge and with his training, he's not filling a bucket, he's lighting a fire.
Ways to improve. Every month we want to improve better on what we did the month before, maybe the year before. It's about how fast we can get the cars done with quality work to get it to the front line, because that's where we make our money. And the bottom line is the longer it takes, the more money we spend. We want to get it down as low as possible. Right now, like I said, we're in a great stage. We're at 4.5 days. In recon, we want to know how quickly we can get the cars out of the recon process and to the front line. The average days in recon and then the time to line are the most important thing to do. I'm Mike Burrell, and Service Director at JM Lexus.
And good morning.
Good morning.
And a special thank you also to VidCalls. If you're not familiar with VidCalls, definitely reach out for a less than 10-minute demonstration. Not kidding. I can do it in 5 minutes. It's that simple. It was kind of hard to find books on that I haven't recommended before on electric cars. So I chose Electric Cars for Dummies, Age of Auto Electric, and Electric Cars, The Ultimate Guide. And actually, we were talking earlier before the show a little bit on some numbers, but go ahead, Jeff, give us some disclaimer information.
Well, of course, as I always do say, the views and opinions shared in this show today are those of our guests and not necessarily that of the AutoHub show or Ian Nethercott or Jeff Polo, but you never know.
And obviously, it's the EV show. I wanted to share some numbers since I actually did some homework on the Canadian market for this conversation last week as to why Canada for electric cars. And I know Jeff doesn't believe these numbers, and I was actually pretty surprised. When you look at Canada as a market, it's roughly 40 million people. When you look at electric, hybrid, and plug-in hybrids sold just last year, 2 years ago in 2021, it was over 500,000 vehicles. That's the total vehicles of approximately 1.6 million, I believe, based on metrics. 7.2% of those were electric, which is about 115,000-ish. British Columbia leads the country, 18.4%. Ontario, 8.5%, which is about half the population of Canada in that province. And then Quebec at 12.7%, which was surprising just because they tend to be pretty thrifty in Quebec. So those are just some numbers, just in case you don't believe that electric may be the future. So let's go ahead. Move that over. Here we go. Go ahead, Mr. Jeff.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. We had another guest lined up today, but unfortunately had a family loss in the family. So to Adam Brent, we give our best wishes and heartfelt thoughts to you and your family. But that's that's that. And then now we have another guest joining us today, one of our favorites. And I'd like to just quickly talk about our mission statement, which is, of course, helping dealers get better one show at a time. And all the various topics that we deal with and we talk about, give the dealer a chance to actually look and see something outside their little world, because we all know most car dealers' world is generally about like this. And it's called, some dealers, my joke is their favorite song is me, 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 me. And so the fact being is there's a lot more out there, and we hope to help everybody just pick up a little bit here and there. And of course, the elephant in the room right now for dealers are EVs. And, we thought with things improving a little bit with market supply, prices would drop. I had a real good laugh the other day watching the auction, and I saw a Kia EV6 that has a Canadian MSRP of $54,000 sold to a Kia dealer for $79,000. I am trying to figure out why. Because, I understand somebody wants a car, but how can you get into a car for $23,000 more than MSRP? You don't get any rebate. Some provinces in Canada don't charge provincial sales tax like BC on used EVs. And of course, some provinces have luxury sales tax too, which they don't pay. But, it just don't add up. However, we have our guest today, our official guest, and actually one of our great friends is joining us to take on Peter as well. But our official guest today is Brent Seavey of Accelerate, Xcare, exactly everything to do with EVs. Joining us from, I'd like to say with his background, I thought maybe he was in Florida, but it's just evergreen trees in the Chicago area, not Chicago area, right?
Sunny Naperville, Illinois, which is not sunny, but it is Naperville.
So you can introduce yourself, obviously your business, and just give us the answer to your first question, which the EV market at the moment is primarily a premium product market. With the cheapest, most mundane models, definitely, well over $35,000 in the US, $45,000 in Canada. Will we see a mass market EV this year or by 2025?
Well, thanks for the intro. Real briefly, I spent about 25 years in the automotive space with Tesla from 2015 to 2019, helped to set up the remarketing department there. So I've been in and around Tesla for about 8 years. And frankly, now, of course, I help to run a fintech called Accelerate. Our main product is Xcare, which is an extended warranty for electric cars. So now that my shameless plug there. I think, honestly, looking at things, we already have a mass market EV. It's called the Chevy Bolt, which after U.S. incentives comes in at about the same price as a decently equipped Toyota Corolla. So, honestly, we already have one. Now, is it the best car? It's a decent car. I've got friends that have Chevy Bolts. I'll never talk down the competition, even though I'm no longer with Tesla. I still identify strongly, but at the end of the day, I think there basically is a flavor for everybody at this point. Of course, Tesla's what they're calling the Model 2, for lack of a better nomenclature for it, because Tesla hasn't officially said what the name is going to be. It's probably going to be in the mid-20s. I know they've got a lot of design work done on that car. There really isn't a whole lot released yet officially on the vehicle, but it should be somewhere in the mid-20s. So I think we're going to have some real compelling product. Is it coming out by the end of the year? Likely not, just because the word is that it's going to be built in the new Monterrey factory in Mexico, just across the border from SpaceX and Texas. But we'll definitely see that product come out next year for sure.
So Brent, I just need to know. These days with pronouns and everything. So is this Brent Seavey Model S, Model Y after your name, or?
My pronoun used to be Model X. I sold that a little while back and got myself a Model Y Performance. but just fabulous cars. You know, when I sold the Model X, I tried to cheat on Tesla and I just couldn't. I went out, I checked out the other manufacturers and I just came back home, reunited. It feels so good. But I love Tesla. The amazing.
Elon Musk is my guy.
He's definitely up there. That's for sure.
Well, it was interesting. I was at a local dealer last week talking to them, and I guess he got his ass a little burned with trying to sell used Teslas because of price drops. So he was a little bit angry about just the fact that I guess he paid too much for a used Tesla that he was trying to retail. So he was like, never again am I ever going to buy one of these cars and try and retail it. So I thought that was really interesting. But you know, obviously, when you look at other brands in the marketplace, be it Lucid, that you know Jeff and I had the pleasure of going to their local showroom and experiencing that car, or VinFast, that I actually had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to go to one of their showrooms, which was kind of interesting in a different way, not good or bad. It was just kind of interesting. We look at brands out there. We were talking a little bit about DeLorean's second iteration and also Fisker's second kick the can. Some kind of irony to pick another, you know, electric only brand. And then, of course, you have almost Mel Brooks style comedy electric cars like the Hummer EV, to pick another one. As we look at a bigger marketplace of other electrics, obviously chasing that 20% market demographic, which I think is pretty much what I feel is the high water mark, at least in the short term. You know, do you think the legacy OEMs, just based on their footprint, will be able to compete, but more importantly, be able to maybe grow outside of where Tesla's been in terms of you know, really one up Tesla because of the fact that they built cars for years, but also they have that dealer network already in place. I mean, I know we've had shows around OEMs and also dealers not happy having to buck up money, but do you really think these brands will be able to outpace Tesla and eat their lunch, for lack of a better term, with their marketing machines?
I think that the dealer network is definitely an asset for the OEMs. I think just having a footprint just about everywhere, and also not having laws in the states that are against, you know, direct to customer sales. So I think that's an asset on their part. I think what the OEMs should really do is not try and beat Tesla at their own game, but try to be different, right? Try to differentiate themselves, try and be uniquely Chevy, be uniquely Cadillac, and you see that the Cadillac entrant, they're definitely beautiful cars. They're definitely very, very much Cadillac. You know, the BMWs are very definitely BMWs. So I think a lot of the OEMs are smartening up to the fact that they really shouldn't go head to head with Tesla at their own game. They should try and differentiate themselves and go after their own market share that they've lost to Tesla. When I was at Tesla, I used to tell people, listen, when the OEMs come to market with a compelling EV, they're gonna conquest their people back. They're gonna want their people back. There were times out behind the different Tesla locations I worked at where it looked like a BMW dealership or a Porsche dealership, or you know, we had so many trade-ins in the back of these luxury brands, and now these luxury brands are going to market, and they're going to go back after their people. They're going to go back after the customers. So I think they have to be careful to differentiate themselves from Tesla and just basically try and reel their people back in.
So you mean the 3 Series fanboys were Model 3 fanboys, coincidentally? I agree with you 100%. I remember having a discussion with a local dealer, one of the largest BMW dealers, I believe, and I said to the sales director, I said, your guys need to be familiar with products in the market in the luxury spectrum, and that includes Tesla, because that customer who's looking at a 3 Series to pick what I consider to be a fanboy model from a fanboy brand. I mean, essentially, you know, that is a similar customer. They're very similar demographic. You know, so yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I mean, you always need to, when you're selling cars, know your market, but from a manufacturer standpoint, yeah, I mean, people are looking for that halo car, and I think BMW dropped the ball there. Like they were early to the electric game from an OEM perspective with I guess it was the i8 and I think it was i3. I don't know, that little SUV.
Yeah, the i3.
Yeah, which was kind of innovative, but it was not hugely interesting. But yeah, I mean, they were early, but they just didn't carry that ball forward fast enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they had a contest at BMW to see who could come up with a car that was uglier than the Pontiac Aztek, and they with the i3. And but I can't really be too snippy about it. I mean, they did a great job on that car. A lot of people liked it. It sold pretty decently. I think they understand now that going edgy, quirky, and weird turns off more people than it turns on. I have friends that own i3s. I'm not going to sit here and bash their car, but at the end of the day, I think they really need to just be uniquely BMW, be uniquely Cadillac, be uniquely Mercedes. I love the EQs from Mercedes. I think they're amazing cars. I think they're definitely going to conquest a lot of people back. The biggest thing that's holding back the OEMs right now is just infrastructure. It's the charging network at Tesla is amazing. I'm going to go down to Tampa next week for a bike race, and the whole way down there, I have superchargers all the way down and all the way back. It's easy. I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to plan anything out. I don't have to go 10 miles off the highway to back to some Kmart where I'm going to sit there and wait for 8 hours to get 100 miles out of some 240. No, I've got full support throughout the United States. It wasn't always the case, but it is now, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Go ahead.
Everything on that one. What do you think with Elon opening up the superchargers, which he's converted a number of them to multi-brand chargers now, when the charging ports are specifically designed for the superchargers, and if another brand comes in, you lose the charger. So you're now you've divided your charging network by half and multiplied the usage by 10, 20?
Well, let's see. Ask Brent Seavey, the stockholder, or Brent Seavey, the Tesla driver. You'll get two different opinions. Brent Seavey, the stockholder, likes it because Tesla overnight became the biggest gas station for electric cars in the United States. Ask me, Brent Seavey, the Tesla owner. It's going to be interesting on this drive down to Florida to see how many of them have been converted to this magic dock that allows people to other makes to charge. The nice thing about Tesla is they've got supercharging down to a science. They've got actual production of superchargers down to a science. They bring them out now on a trailer, fully assembled and everything. They just bang them out. They just put them right on a cement pad. They pre-poured. So they're able to expand the supercharging network very quickly just because they did the same thing for supercharging as they did for vehicle production, and that is they just standardize it and they bang these things out, like rabbits. So as demand increases in certain corridors for more superchargers, they're uniquely positioned to actually place more. Not only that, but a lot of people don't know this. I didn't even know this till recently. Of course, all the superchargers are directly connected with Tesla. And so they can tell at any one time if the supercharger in this area is full and I'm transiting the area, it'll figure out where to send me where the superchargers are available instead of sending me there where I have to wait. But the beautiful thing is you have such redundancy in the system now that you rarely have to wait because the superchargers that are available automatically on your Tesla navigation screen, it will just route you to the one that's more available. And they trim these things too, so they know at what time you're going through whether or not these are traditionally full or empty, and they'll just have you charge more before and more after, and you'll just leapfrog over that one entirely. So it's a really, really smart system that just, in my opinion, is probably well, not my opinion, it is the best out there.
Well, I agree. To remember that Tesla's got what are we looking at? A 10, 12-year head start on everybody else on the entire genre.
Yes.
If they didn't have these superchargers, you know, they'd be fools, and they're not.
Yeah.
Although one thing I can remember, and I'm sorry, Peter, I'll let you go in a second here. I just remember going to malls and seeing every supercharger full and 3 people sitting in their car waiting for the opening.
Sure.
You know, and you know, the app on the Tesla side of things is going to be good because everybody else is going to start parking their EQs and their i3s and their other cute little nomenclature vehicles, and the Tesla guy's going to be sitting there cruising by and going to the supercharger over at the Neiman Marcus.
Yeah, you know, there's just so much redundancy now that if you can't find a Tesla supercharger, it's really because you're not looking. And the nice thing too is they're destination chargers. Tesla did that from the start. You know, hotels, bars, restaurants. You know, and honestly, I never use them if I'm local because I just somebody translating the area. I'd rather just leave it for them. You know, I go to the Whole Foods and they've got free electric charging. And I'm like, really? I'm gonna put my car at 300 miles range. This thing's 4 miles from my house. I'm gonna plug in while I get a loaf of bread and keep some kind of Chevy Volt off of the charger. No.
Lots of people do that just because of this range anxiety thing. It's like, I'm never going to find another charger again.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's like literally buying up all the bread in the store because there might not be bread tomorrow. Come on,
Did that
going to
happen
Tesla.
about 3 years ago?
Yeah, it did actually, and toilet paper too. That was an impact for us. Yeah.
We had a guy up here that was selling toilet paper out of the back of his Mercedes, GLE in a parking lot, and it was quite cute because you look, the whole back was full of single roll toilet paper, individually wrapped,
Oh my
paper
God.
towel, and hand sanitizer. It was very cute. Peter, you were saying something. My apologies.
Well, I as a multiple Tesla owner, I had 5, 275s, a 90, and 2 100s. Knowing in Marco Menudo mentioned about it's not range anxiety, it's infrastructure anxiety, and the infrastructure that is out there that is causing the challenges of purchasing an EV. Well, in knowing that Toronto is the 3rd largest city in North America, slightly larger than Chicago, from Toronto to Buffalo, there's 92 supercharger stalls. That's 120 miles, 92 stalls.
Yeah.
Now, having the Tesla, I've traveled many times from Niagara to Toronto, which is 160 kilometers, 100 miles, and coming back and had the situation where trying to get into a supercharger in cold weather and seeing them all taken part of it gets to the point where you start having beads of sweat coming down your forehead because you're going, okay, I got 14 miles left on the range, and I have to sit here for half an hour, and the car's still burning electricity, even though I'm not moving or doing anything. It's cold weather, so I turn off the car. I don't have heat. I freeze. I do this, and you're talking with a guy who's actually run out of power in the Tesla.
Yeah,
and they become very big paperweights.
Yeah.
So it's the infrastructure challenge that I find with the EVs that is going to be the detriment that the adoption rates don't only get to a plateau, and I think the plateau is going to be around 25% adoption rate, while the other manufacturers out there go out and they go to the synthetic fuels that are going to be very carbon free, and you're going to see that the ICE engines last a little longer than one would expect.
Interesting.
So that's my 2 cents.
Interesting.
You know, that's always possible, and necessity is the mother of invention, right? So EVs may not be the 100%, pure, the 100% NOBL for transportation, right? Yeah. We have to be open to other technologies. We have to be open to other solutions. frankly, I like the video that they showed just before the show started, where talking about, transportation as a service. I think that any privately owned, I shouldn't say any privately owned vehicle, most privately owned vehicles are a waste of resources, mine included. The reason why is because it sits out there parked in the garage the overwhelming majority of the time. I take it on short jumps here or there. I'm taking a road trip to Florida with it just because I can't ride my bike all the way down there. It's a little bit far. But at the end of the day, transportation as a service is going to be the future, where people just basically call for a transport. And yeah, I mean, we've got that now. We got Uber and Lyft and all the rest of these. I think once those services get built out more and more and more, and once autonomy makes them less and less costly, because now you don't have to pay a driver, right? The vehicle just comes to you and picks you up and takes you where you're going. And once they can drill that and dial that down to about a 5-minute wait to go wherever you want, there will be no logical reason for owning a car anymore. I think a lot of people are going to just turn their garages into rec rooms and just type into their app when they want to go somewhere. And
Tell me something. Are they going to program these autonomous cars to have awkward conversations with you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Hello, and how is your day so far?
My wife chats up every Uber driver when we get in the car. How long have you been driving for Uber? Where are you from? What do you, it's like, all I want to do is just play a game on my phone and get to the airport. But she's sweet.
I have to tell you, the best Uber drivers I've come across with so far were the ones in Dallas. They were terrific. They'd look over and say, "How are you today?" You pick up if you're in a grumpy mood. They'd say, "I'll leave you alone," or they'd get into this whole conversation. And I have to say, it was quite good. There was one lady that actually had one guy in San Diego whose car was literally, it was a Hyundai Elantra, like a 2005, 6, and whew, you could tell he picked up rides to get enough cash to go home with. But nevertheless, moving right along.
We had a comment, Jeff, from we had a comment from LinkedIn. Currently, I'm a car broker. I used to work for Mercedes. I was sent to Alabama on training for the EQS. Before the trip, I didn't want to have a customer who will ask about the EQS because I had no clue about the vehicle. Well, because they brought the car to us without having any kind of training. After I came back, I was actually easier to sell them because I knew what I was selling. So training, I think, is part of it, and I agree with that 100%. Part of it was, there was an EQS here at one of the Mercedes dealers. They didn't even have it in the showroom. The salesman had to go back into one of their garages to show it to you because nobody wanted to show it, which I thought was kind of interesting. But go ahead, Jeff.
Well, you do point out something really interesting about EV adoption there, and that is training and knowledge, right? When I can't tell you how many sales managers I've had over the years who told me, Brent, don't sell them what they want, sell them what you have, right? And so the people come in and they'd be looking for one thing, and you didn't have it, you had to switch them over to something that you had. And so most dealerships, they have 1 or 2 EVs in their inventory, but they've got 18, 20, 25 gas burners up there in the used car lot. So somebody comes in on that Tesla Model S that just sold this morning, and you're a salesman, if you want to make your nut for that day, well, if you don't have any more Model S's, you're going to naturally try and shift them towards the gas burner you got on the front row. That nice.
Sure, you want a Model S? I don't have them. Let me show you this F350. I think you'll really like it.
This is just like a Tesla, except completely different. Let me show you.
Well, you talk about training, and I mentioned this last week. A good friend of mine went looking at an ID4 Volkswagen, and a good buddy of his owns one and gushes over it. He thinks it's so great. He went with almost the intention of buying the car. Walks in, gets some new kid. Unfortunately, one of the killers of the car business is we love to train our staff, meaning we don't. And this kid, you could tell he was fairly new at it. He says to him, he shows him the car, he stands back, he tries to do the salesman thing, and then goes, "Would you like to drive one?" Well, sure. So they go outside. It was, the place was busy. There were lots of people there, and the salesman could not disconnect it from the charger. Try as he might, he could not. Now, I don't understand why, because
It's a button, isn't it?
it's not brain surgery, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't get help because everybody was busy and nobody would look at him. The sales manager is doing a very important thing there. He's like this, peering into his computer, and he said, "Don't worry about it." After about 20 minutes, and he left. And I do believe, I mean, the people I've talked to at Tesla showrooms generally have an idea what's going on. They may not be salespeople, but they have an idea.
Yeah, they're product presenters. They're very good product presenters, and they know their stuff. But they're decidedly not salesy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And same thing with our experience at Lucid.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, these guys really know their stuff, but they better at 120,000 US starting price up to 300 and something grand. They damn better know. Excuse me, here I go with our disclaimer. They darn well better know their stuff. But that's going to be the downfall of the legacy OEMs. And actually, I wanted to address something you mentioned just a little earlier, Brent. We had talked about, when Ian mentioned about the new OEMs coming in there. Ford made this announcement: we're selling our electrics like Tesla does. Well, guess what? Every Ford dealer right now has at least 2, maybe 3 Lightning, maybe 5 Lightnings available. All of a sudden, they got it, and guess what they're doing? They're doing the old car business now. So moving right along, I mean, 12-year-old and a little bit older is Lonnie, and I'm a big fan of Princess Bride, the movie.
I love Princess Bride.
Isn't it great?
Great.
And I've used this reference a few times that, an angle month later, you kill my father, prepare to die. But, so Brent, your name is, Brent Seavey. You think these are challenging their usefulness? Prepare to fill in the blank.
Prepare to get used to the fact that EVs are coming. Prepare to get used to the fact that they're being generally adopted by everyone. And I like that reference, by the way. I love that movie, Andre the Giant. It's just so funny. But anyways, here's the thing. From 2012 to 2020, all the OEMs taught their people to sell against electric cars, right? Then basically everything shifted. The world finally woke up to these things. The market share was eroding to Tesla. Tesla was eating their lunch, and the political winds, changed to a different direction as well. And all of that kind of conspired to now force them to get on the electrification train. The problem is for 8 years you've been teaching one thing, and then from one day to the next you have to teach them now that this is the future and get on board and this is going to be great. And deprogramming people who've basically been trained for 8 years to sell against something is very difficult, right? And then you have to have a concerted effort to train these people and actually get them up to speed, like the person who chimed in about the EQS. There are a lot of dealerships that just simply do not understand these cars. I put together like a 35 slide deck to teach dealerships how to sell EVs because you just need to have a basic understanding. The worst thing in the world is for your customer to come in and know more about the car you find than you do. Or worse, you're trying to BS your way through it because you don't understand it. To understand the basics of EVs is so important to sell them. And you don't have to turn a wrench on these cars to understand them. There's a set of components to understand, and after that, you're basically off to the races. And of course, understand the different quirks about how to plug and unplug the car. I had that happen to me when I started at Tesla. I went out to the supercharger that we had out back. I went to unplug the test drive car, and I couldn't get it unplugged. I'm yanking at this thing, and the customer's looking at me, and I can't. Well, you have to unlock a Tesla before you can take the charge cord off. That's a safety device to keep people from coming and unplugging your car and plugging theirs in. So I didn't know that. I didn't have the key with me. I was just going to take the plug out, and I couldn't get it out. So, hats off to your guy at the Volkswagen dealership. I did the exact same thing at Tesla. It
wasn't even the fact that he didn't know. It was a bigger thing. It was the fact that nobody would help him.
Yeah.
Typical car dealership, and actually Peter and I have had a back and forth here, like 35 or 50 different conversations on the HR style. And actually, Peter, I'm going to invite you to our HR show coming up. That just on some of the problems that we have in the automotive industry, that's going now into the EV side of things.
But it's no different than years ago, and probably still happens to this day. And I walk into showrooms all the time and see this happen. There's two things that I see happen. Number one, the used car, where the battery isn't charged, so it won't start. And number two, the car alarm in the showroom, that someone locks the car, and they try and open it, and the alarm goes off, and the receptionist is running around, and this is stuff that's gone on forever and a day. I think the only thing that's different here is you got to train your people, but more importantly, you have to explain to the customer that change might be part of it, but also the fact that you got to, things will happen. I mean, that's just the nature of retail. I mean, pick the retail, but I remember selling used cars, and you had to get really good at jumping that car, because a lot of cases it just wasn't starting. Right? Like that's just the nature of used cars. It sits there for a while, whatever, right? But the one that I always thought was funny was the showroom one, where they sort of jerry-rigged the car so the alarm wouldn't arm. Because this would happen every day, like every day.
Or Chuck's got the keys to the car in his pocket.
Yeah.
Lunch.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things we have to get around. And Brent, I can't remember if it was you or James Carter that posted a picture of the Model 3 or Y with the trunk opened, and there was a little tiny model of it.
Oh, guilty as charged.
I love it. Yeah. And actually, a question for you though. You mentioned this, or somebody mentioned about boosting the car. What are we going to do? How is this going to pan out with Peter in the case that ran out of power in his car as more traditional car buyers adopt EVs? And I know my wife does not gas up her car until the range thing says 0. And it's almost like a game in her mind where she wants to see how far she can go before running out of gas. In an EV, it's not like you can get, you can just get somebody to put in a little bit of gas to get you to a charging station.
Yeah, you can't bring back a jug of fuel, that's for sure. That would be a little bit heavy. Actually, more and more tow trucks are now being equipped with electric charging devices on these tow trucks, where they actually can come out and charge your car on the road if you run out. I think there are definite downsides to original adoption of an EV. You really have to understand it's just not wise to let your car go down to that level if you have an EV. But also, one of the best things about owning a Tesla or other EVs, you can charge at home. I come home, I stick the charger into the side of the car, I go in the house. I never have to go to the gas station. I don't play the lotto, and I don't like fluffies, so I basically don't go to the gas station. I don't smoke. I don't need to go out for cigarettes. So it's so easy to just plug in your car and go into the house. I come out with a full tank, anytime I want to use my car. I never have that issue any longer. So that's the beautiful thing. Yeah. And you're not, especially during COVID, I used to tell people, do you want to touch something that, 10,000 people have touched this week? Go to a gas station. You can do that. You just take that thing out and you just basically shook hands with 10,000 people. You think they ever clean those? The answer is no. They never clean. The only person that's ever touched the plug in my garage besides my electrician is me. He put it in and I use it. And that's it. So it's the most sanitary way to fuel your car as well. And let's face it, when you're getting out of the gas station, you're fumbling through your wallet, your purse to grab your credit card. What could go wrong there? Oh, I don't know. You're standing out with your money out in public with people milling around you. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's a lot safer way to fuel your car and a lot more convenient. I just put the plug in, go in the house. Don't think about it.
So what's your thought?
Adoption of it. That's the of changing our mindset.
Yeah.
With the EV is if you plug it in at home, you think about it. I live in an apartment building, and there's a whole bunch of them downstairs. They don't even have their factory charge. We got 220s in the wall because they built this new building. They're ready to go. And there's a few people that don't even plug their car in. They don't even have a charger here.
Yeah.
Maybe they got to work. I don't know, but that's going to be a very interesting. They also charge $100 a month for if you got your EV plugged in, but that's a whole other thing. But so how do you cooperatively, social media has become for everything. Most people are kind of over the Trump thing right now. And in Canada, there's this one guy that just rags on Trudeau like you wouldn't believe. I don't know who he is, but so now there's lots of other things to rag on things, and it's the EV stuff. There's a few people that they're posting like the Jeremy Clarkson that they mine it in Canada, they ship it to Norway, they do this, the giant lithium mines. And it's not just that, it's everything. But how do you cooperatively address the EV naysayers? Because, of course, the AutoHub show is all about
Well, I mean, people always want to rant about something. It's the rant of the week, right? Elon Musk bought Twitter, and they ranted about that and drove the stock down and everything, and then they moved on to something. People just honestly have way too much time on their hands. But little known fact, by the way, we produce more maple syrup than Canada does, but then we export it to Canada, and then they export it back to the United States as Canadian. Did you know that?
And fighting words for.
I'm kidding. Yeah, we ship up there, they ship it back here. Honestly, I think with anything new, education dispels fear, and fear basically then kind of calm all that stuff down. I think as more people just embrace this new technology, it'll become. I'm looking forward to it becoming commonplace. When I got my first Tesla, people used to literally stare at me in traffic and wave, and kids would go, "Hey, cool Model X, dude, that's awesome." Now nobody even notices me. I'm just another Tesla in a town that's full of them. So I'm looking forward to that day when it's just commonplace, when it really isn't anything to tweet or blog about. It just is.
By the way, Brent, celebration mode is nowhere near as much fun on a Model Y as it is on a Model X.
I like the fart mode where I can do farts from different areas in the car, so I can put my punk friend home and do the whoopee cushion thing back in the corner and be like, God, guys, stop it. What are you doing?
Well, my comment about an EV is I will buy an EV when, like, how the Porsche and the Audi can change the outside sound to it.
Yeah.
When you can sound like a Millennial Falcon, I am buying it.
There you go. Millennial Falcon, is that a bird that was born in 1992 to 2000?
Millennial
Falcon. It's the Falcon that can't move out of his parents' basement.
Oh, man. Hey, I know you that a little bit older than millennials.
The Gen X Falcon, that's what I'm looking for, which is a 1962 Ford.
Yeah.
Well, we had on a previous show I'm not sure the company, maybe Paul. Anyway, it's one of these companies that is in the audio space, and they do develop sounds for pretty much any vehicle, with the idea of putting that in vehicles to simulate different things. But the other thing that was kind of
does the BMW XM.
Yeah.
And it's only inside.
Oh, okay. But
Britain, you must have noise coming from your electric cars now if they see the specific speed to warn pedestrians.
Well, I remember being I think it was a Model S test drive with my wife a number of years ago now, and driving down in Gastown down near here, which is kind of like Pioneer Square in Seattle, and it's cobblestones, and the birds couldn't hear anything. So the woman on test was like, "Oh yeah, they'll get to hear you." No, they clearly didn't hear me. They're clearly still sitting there. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a little dodgy for people who are visually impaired too. Because they can't see, so they need to hear you. Tesla, when you put it in reverse at slower speed, it makes kind of a.
Oh, it's got a weird UFO sound. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm about to be abducted.
And all the Kias all go.
We got a couple more comments. I believe that any manufacturer to succeed in the EV market will be price, knowledge of salespeople, and product, because that's when you can put value in your product. And the other one was infrastructure is key for the EV market. We currently are nowhere close to being ready. Interesting. Thanks for those comments.
When gas cars came out, we were nowhere close to being ready too. That's why gas stations popped up all over the place to service that market. And frankly, if the electrification that happened in the United States in the 1930s had happened in the 1890s or 1900s or whatever, we'd have a whole different world today. The only reason that Henry Ford went with the gas engine to begin with is because you can truck gasoline out to different places and fill up tanks to dispense into vehicles far easier than you could electrify the entire country at the time. Had the country already been electrified, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. They'd just be a car.
Then again, we'd now be talking about nuclear powered cars.
Yeah, exactly, or something else, right? Just because there'd be some other way we're destroying the environment.
We have to change that too. I'm waiting for cars powered by dilithium crystals because my 12-year-old self is taking over. But if you've got a question in the next,
Yeah.
right into this thing about the trucking.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at adoption, and we talked a little bit earlier about sort of the political adoption and the real world adoption, and I pulled some numbers. I guess it's been about a week ago for the Canadian market. Do you really think that that's going to be in that 7 to 10% range in the next 3 years? I mean, what do you think?
What's going to be at 7 to 10?
Electric car adoption rate nationally. I'm not talking big cities because I think big cities is already over that. But what do you think?
It's got to come down to infrastructure again, right? As people that live more and more rurally, don't have access to charging opportunities around them. But frankly speaking, you can charge in your own home. So I think right there, it's going to come down to affordability, like the one question, the one comment that came in. It's about affordability. But it's also about infrastructure. But frankly speaking, you can charge at home most of the time anyways. So unless you're really, really far from the next charging opportunity and you want to take a trip and you're rural, you can charge to 100% at home and go out on a trip. And if you can't make it to the next charging opportunity, you're not going to buy an EV. That's just plain and simple. So the infrastructure has to be sufficient to where people in rural areas will buy. That's why Tesla's penetration in South Dakota really isn't that great, or rural Oklahoma or far western Texas. Different places where there just isn't a lot of infrastructure yet set up for people to charge. But as more and more people have home charging available to them, I think you're going to see adoption go up. It's basically going to mirror infrastructure.
Well, I think you've also got to have political willingness. So out here, Vancouver is very much like LA, Seattle, etc. Calgary is like Houston and Dallas, and then in Dallas there were some Teslas.
Yes.
Here there's a Tesla everywhere. Calgary, there's some Teslas, although it's big oil country, and sometimes people with Teslas, you've got some guy going just glaring out, right? We have a very strong anti-oil thing in our federal politics right now, which is causing lots of trouble. However, same thing South Dakota, same thing. Calgary's a city of approaching 2 million people now, and so it's not small, but it's that mindset. That electric's kind of nice, but that's about it. Whereas you get the coastal cities, it's a big deal. It's a real. It's very funny here right now. Model 3s are as common as a Corolla.
Yeah.
And I think that could also go backwards on the Tesla buyers that were buying because it's a high-end, cool car, because they will go away for something new. That's what I think.
Well, people didn't stop buying Mercedes S-Classes when they came out with the C-Class, right? And people aren't going to stop buying Teslas just because there's a less expensive Tesla available. I think what the problem with Tesla sometimes is the fact that they don't update their exterior styling that often, and wealthy people don't want to be in the same car that somebody's driving an 8-year-old one that looks just like it.
By the way, people buy 7 Series and S classes, even though they stop in the middle of the road for no reason at all.
Exactly, no reason for at all. But I think that Tesla should update their style a little more often, just to appeal to that status conscious buyer that wants the new color, the new grille, the new front end, whatever. But yeah.
Well, they did that in the Model S in 2016?
Yeah, 2016, mid-year 2016, they had the front end refresh, and then last year they had a refresh that nobody noticed because it was very, very subtle.
Yeah.
But yeah. They need to be a little more exciting in that regard, a little more frequently, say every 3 or 4 years.
A little more frequently, they've got to do it because, frankly, to the uninitiated, the original Model S looks the same as a new.
Yeah, very, very close from a side perspective. Yeah,
exactly. You know, I mean, I'm always finding myself looking for the front end to try and get an idea, but even me, a car guy, unless I look inside and see a yoke, which is no yoke, you know, it's yoke or no yoke. You can't tell what the age is or the horizontal or vertical screen.
I'm most excited about electric trucking. I think electric trucking is going to make a lot bigger difference in the daily lives of people than a lot of people understand. I had a short time where I thought I was going to be a truck driver a long time ago, and I got a class. I got a semi permit, to learn how to drive a semi, and it was container work. And I was training, and I was driving out of the container yards down the south side of Chicago, which are basically right in residential neighborhood. There's like literally this container yard, and then you drive out of the container yard, and you're in this residential neighborhood. And I remember driving this big soot spewing, truck through this neighborhood and stopping at a light, and all these people were on the sidewalk milling about, and then the light changed, I'm blowing out all this smoke all over these people. And I just thought to myself, my God, who can live here? And then I thought to myself, well, they probably don't have a whole lot of choice. Nobody wants to live here. They have to live here, right? And so a lot of this electric Class 6, 7, and 8 trucking is what really turns me on. That's going to have a more direct impact on people's literal health. I mean, kids in the inner cities that are breathing in this particulate every day, right, have astronomically higher rates of asthma and other breathing disorders, and cancer and everything like that. So I think as electric trucking takes off, we're going to see a much lower rate of a lot of these respiratory ailments, especially in kids. So that's what that turns me on, because that is a very real, direct thing that we can be doing for actual health of our people.
And frankly, there's been a couple of the traditional truck manufacturers already have electric trucks on the road. I saw the other day. It's quite impressive.
It is. It is. And I think for the long haul trucking, it's going to be a little longer on the uptake, but last mile, last 100 miles, last 200 miles, which is a lot of trucking in the U.S. And in Canada, because we ship a lot of stuff by rail, but then it goes to these container yards, and the last 50 miles, 70 miles, 20 miles are done by diesel trucks through populated areas. And I think those advances are going to have a real direct impact on people. And when folks start to see that, when they start to see cleaner air in the cities, when they start to see lowering rates of childhood asthma and other illnesses and cancers amongst in these densely populated areas, that's going to be something that more and more people can get on board with. I mean, who isn't on board with like making sure that kids aren't getting sick and getting cancer from breathing in this highly carcinogenic stuff?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at trucking, and years ago I worked in that industry, the volume of just moving of even food, let alone other goods, is massive. But also when you look at shipping, I mean, obviously there's been some misstarts with companies that really didn't have an electric truck who were trying to do that. What I've seen a lot of lately, which has been kind of interesting, is conversion of things like garbage trucks and other trucks, basically saying, "Hey, we got this fleet of different vehicles that maybe have a long lifespan just because of the cost and uniqueness of them." Converting those things, I know there's a company in England doing that, sort of almost recycling that truck, saying, "Okay, we've got this big, front loader or whatever it is, city." Garbage truck or whatever. I mean, there's definitely a lot of opportunity to not only extend the life of that vehicle, but also to, make it cleaner for the people that are living around it or that it's traveling through. I mean, I think that's also true when you look at a lot of these classic car conversion projects where it's like, well, I think that's an interesting market too, where people maybe are aficionado of a car, but want that car to be extended life. And I think that's going to definitely be interesting as we get into the next 20 years-ish. Jeff, we're sensitive to time. You've got your bonus question. Go ahead.
Why? Answer that whatever way you want. Either or you. Why?
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 All the further other guests. Let's hear it.
Why EV? Well, it's plain and simple. EV is on the end point of use environmentally sensitive to what we're going through and everything else. It's the adoption rate and that people are going to take on it, the infrastructure. There's so many challenges out there. My question on why is, why are we putting limitations on our politically by saying we have to be at 2025, we have to be at 30% adoption. At 2030, we have to be at 75, and at 2035, we have to be at 100% adoption rate. Knowing the mining industry like I do, I can't see this happening, and it's just it's a lure for politically to get one party ahead of another by saying we're going to do this when they have no capability of doing it. Now, I look at it is, yes, why? We need EVs. We need hydrogen. We need zero emission vehicles. We need synthetic fuels. We need all these things going forward. Yes, we need it. But let's be realistic about it and say we'll do our best and moving forward. That's all we can say. We can't demand because we can't put the infrastructure. Look at California saying we're going to do this, and then the next day they said, please don't drive your electric cars because we don't have the power. The next day, it wasn't like they don't have the powers for air conditioning. They don't have the power. They'll have one nuclear reactor for all of California, and they're mothballing it in 2025. Where are they getting the power from? We have to be responsible as people moving forward and adopt it as we need to. We do need to adopt zero emission policies, but we can't just say it's going to happen overnight. And 10 years is overnight in the automobile industry.
Yeah, the future is choice. I agree 100%.
I would say that aim at nothing and you'll surely hit it. You know, these are goals, right? And goals are good to have because they concentrate. You just said it, right? 10 years is a short period of time in the industry, but you need to start aiming people at a certain direction so that supply chains can get built, so that mines, which usually take 3 to 5 years to go up and running, can actually start mining the proper stuff that people are going to need 3 to 5 years in the future or 10 years in the future. So I think that having these goals is actually good because industries can then plan their long-term plans to supply what's needed to achieve those goals. And so the answer to the question why, for me, tell me who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to somebody who's very environmentally conscious, that's easy. The end use location of that car is putting out a lot less harmful carcinogens, mostly in populated areas. Point me at somebody who's more about performance, and listen, my Model Y performance will slam dunk my friend's Ferrari. And so, I mean, there you go, enough said. So, to point me at a mother, a single mother, who feels intimidated at a gas station because she has to fuel in this kind of rough neighborhood, but she can plug in the garage at home. I mean, there's my use case. So why has as many answers, I guess, as there are people that drive cars? And you point me at anybody, and I'll give them a good, compelling reason to buy an EV.
Jeff, why?
Why not?
Exactly.
The reality is this: we are going that way. Just I look at it, we are going that way. I do believe that the technology has to change a lot in order to get full adoption early, because the fact is that you'll get people, and I mean, I made not a mistake, but I drove from Rochester, Minnesota to Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Okay.
And, on the interstate, there's lots of gas stations, but an EV thing, and those places, if you live out there, you know, even in the States, in Canada, there's lots of places you live 200-300 miles away from nothing. And there's got to be something there to make it work for EVs because
you just didn't see it. There are 6 superchargers between Minneapolis and Milwaukee. You didn't see it because you weren't looking for it. If you sit in a Tesla and you put your destination and you're like bang, 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 you're like, holy shit, they are literally everywhere. Oh, holy crap, they're literally everywhere. So yeah, it's an amazing thing how it's like learning a new word. Once you learn the word, you start hearing it everywhere. And
let me jump in on that one just for 1 second.
Yeah.
Having the Tesla going from Niagara to DC. Okay, it's about 500 miles. Yeah, 500, 600 miles. In this age of instant gratification, which is what everybody wants, it took me 30% longer to get to DC from here in my Tesla, even with superchargers.
Sure.
And as a driver and wanting to get to the destination, that was probably the last straw for me with the Tesla. And it was, I just said, you know, as much as my wife loved coming out every morning and having it charged up and being able to drive 300 miles every single day just by charging into the home, never going to a gas station, never smelling a gas, never having the fear, never having this, never having that. When we drove it, that was when she said, I can't do this anymore. I can't have it. Now, how many times do you drive 600 miles or 500 miles or all it takes is once? And
yeah, that's true. All it takes is once, and then you go to the airport next time.
We get in a thing
The airport doesn't take a bike somewhere.
get something that's good enough for the environment.
Peter, wasn't it true it made her hair frizzy? Just kidding.
There you go.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think change is a must, and this is part of the change. I think the future will be multiple choice. I believe that for quite a while, that it'll be someone comes in a dealership, it'll be engine choice. It won't be one engine. And I think, you know, it will be over time, it'll probably be less choice. And I think that's a good thing for the millennials and younger because we have to leave what we can for them. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll be pushing up daisies probably before it's 100%. But, you know, you got to hit for that goal. And I think as an early adopter of hybrids myself, I mean, I probably sold more than most, but owned a few myself. I don't think they're by any nature a perfect vehicle, but they were, you know, other than diesel at the time, they were the better choice in my opinion. And I think electrics are perfect, but for most people's needs, in that video earlier talked about it, for most people's daily needs, it's a great solution. It's just how often do you do that long trip, like in your lifetime?
I worked for Tesla. I've been in and around Tesla for 8 years. This will be my first long road trip in a Tesla. The furthest I went was Chicago to Green Bay, which, if you know that, is a hop, skip, and a jump, you know, from a long term perspective. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be neat. I'm going to be hanging exterior signs all the way down to the superchargers, all the way down, all the way back. So it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, looking forward to it and looking forward to reporting back how the long trip was.
Something here. I have to tell you what a great product because it's now we're getting into older EVs and batteries are an issue. And from a little lot there, we bought a few of them. And out of 7 or 8 that I bought, I only kept one because I kicked the others back because the batteries were toast. And so maybe it's sort of like, is it like your iPhone where you have to let the battery drain down once in a while?
No, actually, EV batteries do not have a memory. And it's actually better to keep them above 20% and below 80% day to day. You really don't want to drain them all the way out. You really don't want to 100% charge them too often. Now, for a road trip, you can go to 100% for a nice long leg of a road trip. But lithium-ion batteries, to have their best life, then you want to keep them between 20 and 80% most of the time.
We program them not to charge past 80?
Yeah, it's just a program right in the dash. I just set a limit at the trip line, which is 80%.
but that means you can take up a 3-hour parking on the EV charging on the side of the road, but only do 80%.
I never do that.
Anyway,
Charging to the guys with the little beef that has to get home at night because it's cold.
exactly. Very considerate man. And Ian used the first cliche, which is pushing up daisies. My cliche is all good things come to an end, and as does today's show. And I thank you very much, Brent. I just love having you on. You're always a great source of entertainment and knowledge. And Peter, as always, we love having you. We appreciate the support like you wouldn't believe. And Peter's one of the snappiest dressers we've ever seen. Always there with something cool on.
I didn't know I was out of dress this morning till he came out.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, we're wearing our AutoHub shirt.
Yeah.
You can see it for the first time.
There you go. And our condolences to our Lucid guest who couldn't make it for personal reasons. Have yourself a great week, gentlemen, and thanks again.
Thanks for joining us. It was a great show, and follow us anywhere you would like on your favorite podcast, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and of course on our YouTube, or subscribe to our own channel.